Hey everyone, it's Kevin Carr from Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning, Certified Functional Strength Coach in Movement is Medicine. In today's video, I'm going to teach you all about the Goblet Squat. The Goblet Squat is one of my favorite exercises and one that I program most frequently when teaching beginners how to squat. So I'm going to teach you all about the Goblet Squat, how to do it properly, and how we can progress and regress for more advanced athletes or for beginners. The Goblet Squat was originally popularized by strength and conditioning coach Dan John. And it became popular as a way to teach the squat because it doesn't require the use of a barbell to do something like a front squat or a back squat. When first learning how to squat, learning to squat with a barbell can be uncomfortable and tough. But for beginners, using something like a dumbbell or a kettlebell conveniently placed at the chest, the Goblet Squat can be a great way to learn without the limitations of a barbell. By holding the load at the chest position, it's going to help the athlete develop anterior core strength. By having to position the load at the chest, it's going to require them to brace through their torso, helping them develop a nice upright posture and abdominal strength. By loading the exercise in this manner, it's going to make the exercise easier for the beginner to learn because they're not going to be limited by the limitations of shoulder external rotation or thoracic extension that would be required to initially teach someone how to do a barbell back squat. You can typically progress your athlete for a long period of time using a Goblet Squat. In my setting, what we'll typically do is progress the athlete until they run out of dumbbells to use. So if you have a dumbbell rack that goes up to 120 pounds, you can continually progress the athlete in a Goblet Squat until they exhaust the dumbbell rack. From there, we can begin looking to progressions to continue to challenge the athlete. What we can do next to add more external load is then progress to the athlete to something like a double kettlebell front squat where they're holding two kettlebells in a rack position, and then eventually move them to something like a barbell front squat or barbell back squat. But by starting with the Goblet Squat, you can set a good foundation teaching the athlete how to lift, develop core strength until they're ready to place higher external loads onto their torso in something like a barbell loaded squat. When setting up in the Goblet Squat, we want the athlete to set up with their feet roughly shoulder width apart. They could be a little bit more narrow or a little bit more wide, and that's not a problem. We also want to see that their toes are straight ahead or even slightly angled out wherever they're most comfortable. When holding the kettlebell or dumbbell, we want it placed directly up at the chest so it's pinned right up against their sternum. Their elbows should be tucked tight by their side. I like to cue the athlete to think about squeezing something tight in their armpits. We want to make sure they keep it pinned there throughout the movement, and as they descend down, we should see that their elbows drop just inside or just at their knees. For depth, we want to see that they squat two parallel so that their femur or upper thigh is parallel to the floor or slightly below. If someone is having trouble with the Goblet Squat, you can simply regress them to a squat press out. During a squat press out, we're going to have the athlete assume the same starting position as they do in the Goblet Squat, but instead they're going to hold a light plate or ball at their chest, something that's 5 to 10 pounds. As they squat down, they're going to reach the ball out in front of them, and that anterior reach is going to help them to keep a more upright position through their torso, and do so without as much external load as they might use during a Goblet Squat. Another helpful tip is you could just slightly elevate their heels on a ramp or even small 2.5 or 5 pound plates, and that's also going to help them keep the upright torso position. Have them start by practicing here and then progress them back to the Goblet Squat when they're ready.